And these platforms are working very, very slow in how they're doing this. I believe, was it Claude or Perplexity just drew back on their advertising and are like, wait, we're holding longer on this. So we'll see again how that one spans out. So it's not nothing to be dependent upon. So I'm still going here. So finally we get to the map, right? And that really, see, there's my little dot. It all depends upon where, you're located at that moment in searching. So this is very precarious in that direction. And then again, there's the sponsored. And then you get down to Lehigh Valley Chamber, which is again a directory. And then, oh my goodness, you're finally at the end of the page, and it's
now we're back to sponsored results again.
A sponsored result, and then. And so then
in
you
that entire page, Deb, if you'll scroll back up a little bit,
yeah,
the organic content is about 5 things of that entire page, and it's all the way at the bottom.
It's ridiculous. But this is what's
clearly
happening.
They don't know what they're talking about because my name's not on there. So
obviously, Charles, obviously. But here, this is what's happening in the psychological perspective of this. If I needed a lawyer right now, I would be so beyond frustrated with the Google search, because up here in the AI, at least they started, putting things together in categories. What am I looking for? Am I looking for divorce? Am I looking for workers' comp? It's already thinking for me because the AI is like, your prompt is not very good.
Right.
It recognizes that.
Well, let's talk about that for a second. So, with these LLMs, with Claude and ChatGPT, there's this great coffee mug that used to be all over the internet years ago, and it says, your Google search is not a replacement for my law degree. So with Google, with these LLMs, the idea is it's still the old adage of garbage in, garbage out. Until the person who is using this is properly trained or has learned on their own how to return the best results, garbage in is still garbage out.
And so you're assuming, Charles, that our general population of our great nation will be smart enough to figure out how to prompt things.
That's a big assumption. It's going to be years, right?
Oh, I was with my 76-year-old mom this weekend, and I taught her ChatGPT, and she's a beast now, right? But it's, you have to have those learning moments of what it is and how to use it and think creatively and challenge it and recognize it is just a computer. It's not a personality. It's not your friend.
That's crazy because it seems like a personality. The way it responds to you, it really seems like it wants to please you. And that's another thing, and that's completely off of our topic today, but that's where the hallucinations come in, which is not what we're discussing about. But the computer wants to please you. And you have to be very careful how you frame the questions and what you're searching for.
And I love that point, Charles, because as I flop over to ChatGPT and you can see my craziness of searches and everything like that, I take no claim of responsibility here. Here are the words, I'll give you strong options. So, if you trust this as a person and not just a computer of ones and zeros in the back end, you're like, oh, wow, these are the strongest. You don't know if these are the strongest. These are just the ones that came up and how it has done. And again, it's, it separates, it recognized that it was a short, bad prompt, top lawyers in Lehigh County. It starts giving you suggestions as per, specialties. There you are, Charles. Very good with things, which is awesome. But hey, they're looking at highly reviewed. If you haven't focused as a business getting reviews, guess what? You need to get reviews. But then here's the thing. Google has announced that they are chopping down on reviews if they come in too quickly. So if all of a sudden you decide, hey, I'm going to, go back, here's an email out to 100 of our clients, please review. Yeah, Google's going to, slash whatever percentage of them because they all came in at the same time.
That's a very great point. They've actually been doing that for quite a while.
Oh. Yes.
And what you cannot do if you're looking to boost your reviews for marketing and branding purposes, you cannot send out email blasts to all of your past clients with the link and say, everybody, please review me, or even like your family and friends. Because if you get an unusual amount per day, it just deletes them all and it was wasted effort. Now, if you are somebody that gets 1,000 reviews a day on a regular basis, they will let them stand. But if you try to go from getting 2 reviews a month to 5 reviews a day, they're just going to delete them. And all your effort and all that goodwill that you had your clients put forward disappears. And one other thing I want to mention about the reviews, if you saw when you were back on the other screen, and you don't need to go back to it, but it's reviews on all platforms, right? You need to have reviews on Facebook, on Yelp, on lawyers.com, on Google. I mean, Google used to be the most important. I personally believe Google reviews are still the most important review, but that doesn't mean you can neglect the other websites.
And then did you know that Yelp and Apple Business are intrinsically connected?
I did
So,
not.
yes. So if you're having problems with either of those and they don't match, that is why. So the
That's
incestuous
terrible news.
relationships that are in different places of what you have going on. So, and you go down to the bottom here, and then what does, the LLM do? It attempts to be helpful. It tries to educate you. Most top firms offer free consultations. Well, guess what? If you happen to be a firm that doesn't offer free consultations, you have just been discredited for the value that you're trying to provide, agree or disagree. Look for experience in your exact issue. It just, what do you want me to do next? It's always telling you, with what is going on. But here are some things. Budget expectations. Do you have on your website anything about budgets and what people should have? Because if you don't, since this is what is being suggested by ChatGPT, that's an opportunity. If you have an FAQ page that has a question about, what is your budget, you then now have more of an opportunity to appear if somebody makes that their next thing. Same thing with urgency. Do you have things on your website that directly deal with that word? Not just we try to get back to you in 24 hours, but our urgency is your priority, whatever you want to be. So this is where you have to be in these platforms. And I won't show you my dashboard platform where I have like 7 LLMs opening. I'm asking it all the same questions, but this is what we do for clients. This is where we would come into, Laputka Law Office and say, all right, what are the 10 top things you want to make sure that you're showing up in search for? Google, AI, whatever it may be. And then we start putting together, well, what are those 10 questions that if somebody is at that moment of crisis, opportunity, need questions, how do we make sure? Because each one is going to be different. Claude is going to show different than Copilot. That's going to have a little different than, Google. So it's how we come it together. And boy, is it a mess because there's not a Google Analytics. There's not a dashboard in the back end that you can go back to.
Let me ask your thoughts on this. So,
Yes.
when you're in here, if anybody that's watching this right now
Yeah.
wants to go and do this search about themselves to find out what's out there, you can certainly do that and you should do that. My question to you, Deb, is if you're not showing up in these search results, is it beneficial to ask the LLM how you can better show up in their search results?
I challenge it all the time. I'll stick with strawberries because it's familiar with everyone. A couple months ago, I was playing around with things. And again, a couple months ago, it's not strawberry season. So I'm not expecting it to be top of the mind awareness. And so I would say, hey, I live in Nazareth. I have an 8-year-old. I'm looking to do this, looking for strawberries this spring. And then whatever the answer would be, I'd be like, oh, why didn't you show? And I do my competitors as well to see what they're missing right now. Why didn't you show Valley Fruits and Veggies? Why didn't you show the strawberry farm down the street? And it tries to please you every single time. Oh, I'm so sorry you weren't listed. That was a great choice. Like, great,
Yeah.
So challenging it back, but that is a one-off, one moment. It's then that greater umbrella strategy of how do you make sure that it's not like a one moment, yay, ta-da, I reached the top or I reached the search. It's how do you monitor and manage yourself there?
There's one other thing I wanted to mention on that topic, which is, oh, no, it just escaped me. Hold on one second.
Take
Oh,
your time.
what I wanted to say is that, you're talking about strawberries and how to advertise this for the farm. And what I want to impress upon everyone that's listening to this now or in the future is I am a multiple business owner myself, like you are. And a lot of times lawyers think, they're special. What works for the Valley Fruits and Veggies is not going to work for the Laputka Law Office. And the answer is, if that's your mentality about marketing and branding, you are dead wrong. My business, Deb, is no different than your business. This law firm is no different than the strawberry farm when it comes to marketing and branding, because we all have to play by the same rules.
Yeah.
And it's just, we're not, as lawyers, we all think we're special. We're not special when it comes to marketing and branding.
It's an interesting place to be because everyone starts at a zero value. And whether your website looks like a Craigslist ad or an over-decorated wallpaper or very organized and beautiful, if someone has the right need at the right time and the right purpose and your information happened to appear and they clicked on it, then you've got the contact moment. So it's how to win at that game. So what I wanted to do here now is, all right, so that was the basic, connection of bad prompt, right? It really didn't go too far, but we can at least see the structure. So this is what people are really doing. And let me go back to the slideshow. So, how users of these platforms are really searching. In Google, people are saying near me. They're giving it the topical authority like injury attorney. And you as a business can then track that with Google Analytics. Oh, look, are they searching? Are they coming from a social referral? Is it a mention somewhere else? And we do all of that. We dig into the Google Analytics and everything to get that because we need to have measured decisions based upon what's successful and then what is changing. And your website design is probably optimized by keywords that you've put in there because success has been measured by clicks and then inbound leads, just like you're saying, Charles, 150, within a certain amount of time. It all goes back to a slot machine. If you know that for every $100 you put in, you're going to have so many chances on the jackpot, then heck yeah, let's spend it on the Google ads. But here on the right-hand side is where it's changed. So when you go to ChatGPT, what is the search? I was in an accident and lost use of my left leg, looking for a lawyer who has worked with traffic accidents involving a tractor trailer and lost wages. So that is a lot of different keywords that the large language model is putting together and going, okay, where is that suggestion coming from? And the answers that it's looking for are, online mentions, citations. Have you submitted a paper somewhere that has been published? Are you in a magazine, a directory? It's ratings, like we said, structured content. So these are the kind of things where all of a sudden it's not just your website, but it's everything else organically in the ecosystem that represents your business that's out there in different ways. If you have never paid, to be in a publication before, it may be time to do that. If you have not done a press release in this year, it may be time to do that. I'm working with PR Newswire for one of my other clients. And it was an interesting conversation I had because PR Newswire is like, yeah, we're trying to convince people to instead of just do the standard press release where it's, we did this, aren't we proud? Make it a question and answer because that's what it is. If you can emulate the exact question that people are asking and provide the answer, the LLM is going to get all excited about that and usher you into, the content that it's producing.
So in a marketing group that I'm involved with, sometimes we affectionately refer to this as the concept of ACE. ACE stands for author, celebrity, and expert. And basically, in this aspect, when you're placing things online for marketing that you want to be picked up by the LLM models, you want to ask yourself, is this just a thing that I'm putting on my website, or does this promote me as an author, a celebrity, or an expert on the topic? Because that's how you're going to get picked up by these LLM models. They're looking for those things.
Yeah. Well, my goal for 2026 is I've started a podcast. I've got 9 YouTube subscribers right now. I'm so excited. It's absolutely amazing. But I release a reel on LinkedIn and everything. And I picked up Patrick Bet David. Is that his last name with things? So he's, an influencer out there now with stuff like that. And he talked about however many years ago, after 1 year of doing a podcast every week for the full year, he got 60 followers on YouTube. Well, now he has 1.2 million. And that is where it's the long game with content and how to put things out there. Just like Charles, we were talking before even getting on. If we could all have taken advantage of that first week of YouTube and started a YouTube channel, we all wouldn't be working where we are right now, maybe, and what's going on. It's the same thing with the basis of how can businesses and law firms here and individual lawyers set themselves up for a baseline success of a foundational approach of this is building on over time. So, your future customers may never visit your website, which is crazy, but they will rely on answers shaped by it and the other contents, what to do.
Yeah, I agree. And those frequently asked questions and answering questions is how you get those followers. And, we're talking about YouTube, and I would like you to address, if because I know things are changing every day. Is this also important for things like Instagram and TikTok? Because if we're talking about followers, I mean, that's where for my business, my customers are on TikTok. My YouTube channel, I just looked it up because you mentioned it, is 261 subscribers. Nice. My TikTok channel is 2,750.
Yeah.
So that's got to be relevant for this, right?
And that's where, everyone doesn't have to be everywhere to the same thing at the same time, but you have to know your customer base. So, if someone is doing business acquisitions as part of their law firm, is TikTok really the place to be for them? I don't know, but obviously bankruptcy and criminal law, things like that, where you're like, oh man, so and so just got picked up, or it pops in your feed, and if you're
Yeah.
searching that kind of thing.
B to C is pretty important to be there for B
Oh,
to C. B to B could be a little bit different. But
yes,
that's part of this handout that you gave us that
yes,
we want to encourage everybody to, contemplate and fill out when you're thinking about this. If you want to advance your marketing and branding in this area, is, the first thing you need to figure out is who is your ultimate client and what is it that they need from you, because that's the information you should be putting out there.
yeah, over and over again. And you can feel like a broken record when you're the one producing it. But remember, social media and the internet has worse than the memory of a goldfish. So
Right.
it's how do we keep it going in those kind of
And the
ways?
other big thing to remember is what's important to us is not what's necessarily important to our clients. For example, I have had very few people in the last 23 years ask me where I went to college and where I went to law school and what I like to do with my family on the weekends. But that's, the old SEO people would say, you got to put all that in there. Now they just want to know, can you fix my problem? And
Yep.
that's really, all of that old stuff should probably still be there and should still be up to date. But, ask yourself, attorneys that are watching this, when was the last time somebody that was a non-attorney, a client, said to you, well, where'd you go to law school? Like it matters.
Yeah, it's a different world. It's definitely a different world in what is needed and how it goes along with different things. No, that's excellent. So here's kind of a summary of a lot of different things that we just handled before jumping into next parts. Where does this shift lead, right? So it used to only be about ranking number one on Google, keywords, backlinks, paid ads. And like you said, Charles, they're all still there. However, it's now the structured expertise, the machine readable authority. If you have not been in touch with your web person in quite some time, you need to send them an email and ask them, how is our website structured for machine readable authority? Their answer and how quickly they get back to you, and if it looks like it was written by ChatGPT or not, will tell you if you're right with the right web designer or not, because they're behind. Everybody is focusing on what it has been. I am the only one in the Lehigh Valley that I know of right now that is focusing this intensity, that every single website that we do now and our existing clients, we're revamping to make sure that it picks up.
Yeah, and we talked
Yeah.
about this earlier. One of the questions on this list is when was the last time you talked to your website person?
Yeah.
And I got a gold star because my answer is every other Thursday. I have 26 meetings a year with my web designer, and every other Thursday we're looking at stuff and changing things and tweaking it. And it might not even be something that you would notice. If you go to my website every single day for the next 6 months, you might not notice what we changed, but we're changing stuff every other Thursday.
Yep. So here's a tidbit, first goldness. Go ask your web developer to put on the bottom of every single page, last updated and the date. And then every month, change that date if anything was updated or not. Because by simply having that last updated by, that triggers the LLM that something different appeared in the way that it searches. And it does, Google has some SEO that involves too, but hey, probably between this week and next month there's going to be even more changes, but that's kind of that a hidden trick that we have found that definitely helps with just staying relevant even if you haven't changed anything to have a date there. But yeah, consistency. And here's the big thing. Large language models do not rank pages. If I have another online, marketing guru on TikTok or Instagram or whatever, I'm going to help you rank on ChatGPT. I'm going to be hiring one of you, and we're going to have a class action lawsuit on how you can't rank on LLMs. It's not a 1, 2, 3, 4. That is a terminology with Google and SEO of old. It is not where you are in the future. So anything that is with that, please know that that's not proper terminology, and that person, unfortunately, isn't in tune with what they need to be talking about. All right. So what you need now, marketing is not a checklist. It is a strategy. Bring in things like, I haven't talked about LinkedIn yet. A lot of things with, doctors, lawyers, other important people that we trust on for individual decisions. I do a lot of looking in at people now. Oh, I'm looking at this contractor to do a renovation of my house. It's not just the business I'm looking at. I'm also looking at him because I want to know, does he pay his vendors? Anything else come up? People are Googling and now AIing with the search. How do you appear? Please go to Google and pick your LLM of choice today and ask it to give all the information about you. What the top influencer right now that continues to be is LinkedIn. LinkedIn, it's owned by Microsoft, so it's got all these interesting little, blips about it of how it's great and then how it's not. But if you and your firm have not optimized your LinkedIn company page and then also your individual pages, that is something that I am a self-professed LinkedIn nerd. That's how I started 9 years ago. And that's where core content is being taken from because, well, LinkedIn's a directory and it's a directory of people and businesses. So that's something that, I love coming up with strategies because we meet as a whole team. Everyone gets individual homework. We get the right headlines and the abouts because it's still the individual property of every single person. And you as an employer, and I'm talking to lawyers, I don't think you're able to force employees, to mandate what their LinkedIn is or is not. But as, a successful team member on your team should want to be a part of that process to help, bring that in. So definitely, and links from your about pages on your websites, making sure that each person is linked to LinkedIn is very important to showcase that connection. I happen to have Kalidas is a Greek name. There's not another Deb Kalidas out there. I'm very easily searchable. But if you have a very common first and last name, that's where those backlinks are, especially to make sure people are finding you in the right place in the right time. Because that's another threat. It's bad if you're, I know a gentleman, his name is John Smith. God bless him. There's anonymity there that you really can't find him without more details. But at the same time, that's where improper information may come up. And the assumption is that you're someone that you're not. So make sure you're clear in those different ways. Don't just have a website. Create and publish content that showcases authority. What my team and I do is we come into your business, we meet with, identified key stakeholders and say, all right, how do we spread the love and spread the work? Because saying to one of you, like, hey, I need 12 articles a year. You're so busy already, like Charles, you were saying, taking calls this morning in the car and, multitasking, everything like that. We spread the need and, the focus, through the subject matter experts. And then I'm able to take it and, structure it to way to put it out there. So whether it's a LinkedIn article or an article on your webpage, or it's actually given to PR Newswire, those are different opportunities to put things out there. Number 3, I jumped ahead on the LinkedIn there. And yeah, please just double check. LinkedIn and that's another question to kind of add to the bottom of your worksheet. When was the last time you updated your LinkedIn? And does it look like you're searching for a job? So many people's LinkedIn are, a highly effective leader that has this many years of skills. That doesn't tell me anything, nor gives me encouragement about hiring someone in any way. Number 4, your firm may have an excellent reputation now at this moment, but have no AI readable entity footprint. That footprint is what is going to help you when something hits the fan or when something really, really good happens to get it out there. So the schema, we call it in the back end, it's an acronym called JSON and all this kind of stuff, where we literally go through the code in each section to make sure that it is represented properly and how a headline is identified versus a subline versus a byline to showcase what's important. And then, yeah, time to invest in YouTube, directories, and public relations. It's a different kind of game because AI doesn't assume authority. It compiles it over time. And Charles, I know that's something that you've really done because you even have a book and you have, other things that are out there where, the book is important, but it's not always about the book. It's what the book stands for. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Talk about which? The actual book? So that comes to the author and celebrity and expert part
Right.
of this. So that's one of the reasons that I have written these multiple books. I actually have 3 now. But the reason is because that is marketing that positions you to be the expert on the subject. And I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, when these LLM models are reading, this content, they are also seeing the book because what you may or may not see is there are pages of my website that has the full, context of my book.
Is it in PDF or is it in the actual page?
It is PDF.
PDF. So PDFs are interesting right now. There's undecided discussion in the back end of these LLMs. So LLMs right now are prioritizing .gov based PDFs. They are searching them. They're doing things. Now, there's some businesses, software companies that are coming out now that then I'm working with one that then allow you to then structure the PDF on your website so that it's more easily readable. So PDFs are one of those things because there are so many PDFs out there. Just like video, if you have a transcript with your video on YouTube, you are going to be found a lot faster than just having the video on YouTube, for the content. So that's why, especially when you upload a video on YouTube, definitely allow, it to have the transcript or, the subtitles, because it's those at that moment that it becomes more readable of what's going on. So yeah, it's interesting because these LLMs have been crawling the internet and the learning curve is, going up and up and up. What is it looking for next? How are they going to make the adjustments? What are they going to be searching for to feed into that of most recent content? But yeah, definitely was so. So here's what ends up happening. And this is either your homework or you're like, dear God, I'm going to call Deb because it's a lot. This is another full-time job. And you have to decide based upon, your time, your talent, your budget, what is then that growth rate that you're trying to grow as a business and as a firm? Are you trying to hold steady? Do you have a succession plan that you need to make sure of, that next generation of what's happening? And delegate this. Goodness gracious, focus on what your intent is and let, an expert like me or someone else who's on your team that has a knack for things. And there's two great successes in how I come into businesses. One is, Deb, please, good Lord, take it. We're here. We'll figure it out. The other is I come in to make sure your team are the rock stars that they are. So I'm not here to take over an existing, marketer, communications director, or website person. We're here to empower them with the messaging and the knowledge and things that are needed to accomplish things successfully. So entity clarity. That's one of the questions on your sheet there about, okay, do you know your audience? And within your audience, is your business clearly defined? Number two is topical authority mapping. That's where we go old school and we map it out of, okay, here's, Charles at the core. Here's all the spokes of the wheel of the law firm. Here is where each one needs to have, its own plan for how that is going to get out there. And you really can see it visually of what's happening and all come together. The digital consistency audit, oh goodness, that's a pain, but it is so valuable. This is where literally it's hours going, okay, where am I already listed on the web? Formulating a master doc that the key stakeholders have in their power to make changes and edits. It's getting everything aligned to know where you're, being mentioned and what do you have control of versus what's being mentioned of you. Especially with reviews. It blows my mind how people and companies can get reviews and still not respond to them, whether they're good or they're bad. Because that's a visual moment that as these LLMs dig in more and seeing the positive reviews, I'm sure whether it is now or coming, they're going to also see the negative reviews and be able to say, well, that was really worthwhile or not. My favorite negative review for Valley Fruits and Veggies is you ran out of strawberries. Sorry. So, can't hear you, Charles. Your audio just went?
Yeah, sorry.
There you go.
Real quick on that topic.
Yeah.
With reviews, absolutely should be responding to all of them and even the negative ones. And what you might find yourself doing is putting the negative review into an LLM and ask how to respond to that properly so that it doesn't appear to be negative. Because I have my favorite one-star review is from an opposing client. So somebody that I didn't represent, that basically I won, and they went on my website and they went on my Google My Business and put a one-star review about how I'm a terrible person and a terrible attorney. And I got to respond to that and say, well, that's an interesting perspective considering you were the opposing party and I did what was necessary for my client to win. So that's an example of a one-star review actually being positive. And frankly, you have to think about people from a standpoint of what they're searching for. So if you want to buy a TV, right, you Google the TV and you figure out what the reviews for the TV are. You don't read the 5-star reviews because you want to know what people are complaining about, not what they're happy about. So it can be very beneficial to turn those negative reviews positively with your response and don't just, blast the person back who says, well, you charge me too much. And then you say, charge you too much? I didn't charge you enough. You're a real pain in the neck. That's not what you're looking for here. You want to look for some more professional response to that and ChatGPT or Claude or whatever your flavor is can help you do that in a positive light.
No, very, very, very true. The suggested responses that I use all the time in interesting, precarious situations are always good. So that no, that's great. That's great. And what's out again for the count is we don't know over time as the LLMs are trained in more effective ways. Are they going to filter out? Do they filter out a certain number of bad reviews? I don't know. Are they looking for what's qualified as a real bad review or not? I don't know. So, all sorts of different things that we don't quite know yet. But what we do know is when people are looking at it, we still want to make sure that they get a good answer.
Right. I mean, the most valuable reviews, and hopefully these LLMs will ultimately figure that out, but the most valuable reviews are like 3 stars because
Yeah.
those are usually the honest ones.
Yep. Oh, when I'm searching for a restaurant, you better believe it.
Right. I'm not looking at the 1 star review because that's just an angry person. The 3 star
Yeah,
review is what you want to know.
that is the
That'll be
perfect.
the most honest review you can find.
That's good. No, I like that. I like that. So yeah, lastly, LLM testing and benchmarking. So as I said, there is no Google Analytics right now. You can't just log into a back end. There are companies that are beginning to sell you back ends. It's not there. They are maybe organizing something in a nice kind of way, so maybe you can see things. There is no score, to be out there that's consistent right now. We have an internal scoring with our clients because then we can say, oh, well, last week we were at a 6. This is what a 6 means. Oh, look, this month we're at a 7. But again, it's very subjective, objective. Yeah, right now of what can be. So this is how you test your prompts. What you're going to do today at some moment, you're going to have Netflix on and you're going to be, sitting there with your LLM of choice and you're just going to start asking it a bunch of questions. Now, as soon as you start asking it questions, it's learning based upon your question about you. So there's going to be a point where you're going to have to open up a new chat and say, ignore all prior chats. Tell it to start new. And then it will do that for you to kind of start. Or you give it a scenario. I'm a single mother of 3. I've been married for 15 years. My husband just got out of jail, though, so I do need to divorce him. Like that is a prompt to see, okay, what is going to come up with it. Same thing with any other topics that would hopefully lead to your firm in some way, shape, or form. And then be looking at other firms out there. Pick another part of the country and see who's coming up. Use them as an example. We don't need to reinvent the wheel when you're able to find an example somewhere of, wait, you know what? I like how they've structured their website. I can see they're releasing content, continually. They've made traction on LinkedIn. What are they doing? And how can we put together as our own, strategy and procedure? So, you're constantly looking to identify the gaps because gaps I love as a business owner because those are the opportunities. If no one's paying attention to this is, what's going on. And you measure improvement over time. If you expect microwave results, then just go pay for some search engine optimization, slap down a couple grand to Google and see, what happens there. But again, it's a slot machine. How much do you need to put in to get the value out of what's going on? So I don't know, Charles, after all of this, what are you going to challenge your web designer with this week?
Well, I wrote a couple of things down that I know we are not doing at the moment. So one of the things was the urgent response. I'm going to have to bake that into my website about, not just 24/7 availability, but urgent response to your, urgent solutions to your urgent problems or something. I'll ask
Yeah.
ChatGPT and it'll come up with something great. But then you have to change it because it knows if you're using its language. Um, Relationship centered marketing. I wanted to talk about that a little bit as well. I've got some takeaways here.
Yeah.
Relationship centered marketing is very important, and that can happen through social media, but also through your basic website. You want to be building a relationship with your clients as quickly as you can through frequently asked questions. I get a lot of people who come into my office for a consultation and they already feel like they know me because of my social media presence. And they say, oh, I'm glad I get to meet the guy from TikTok because I've got hundreds of TikTok videos. And people really feel like they already know you. And it makes it a lot easier for them to select you and write you a check when they feel like they already know you.
And Charles, if I could interject on that one real quick. And I'll just go over here to the last slide. That is what I have attempted to do in being very focused on this AI search. I have it on my website. You're always going to be responded to by a person. Like I have all this AI stuff, but guess what? At the end of the day, it's this relationship and how we understand each other and manage the problems. Please become my Just Get to Work 10th or 11th, subscriber today. That would just delight my heart. But it's making the connection so super easy, but then taking it authentically in the relationship, especially within the super awesome blessing of lawyers, which I am saying that authentically, is because you serve a need at a time of potential crisis. And there's no greater human moment of vulnerability that, really comes true in how you can serve that person. So how do we, amidst all this glunk and, distractions, really come into that?
Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, legal sales is a direct need, type of marketing. So it's as far as sales go, and this is good for lawyers because most lawyers are not good salespeople, trial lawyers aside, because they got to sell their story every day. But regular transactional lawyers are generally not great salespeople because selling in the legal space is very easy. Oh, your house is in foreclosure. You need a foreclosure attorney. We're not competing. We're just competing with our peers. We're, for marketing and market share, right?
Yeah.
We're not trying to convince somebody whether or not they want to buy the particular hose that we make. They need us right now. DUI last night, foreclosure on Friday. They've got to hire somebody. We've just got to do that relationship centered marketing and then to be found everywhere congruently to make sure that we are the person that they choose when they start searching for bankruptcy or DUI or whatever, estate attorney because mom just died, right? Like we got to deal with this today.
Yep. No, the best success I have had with my clients is when those that are the decision maker are able to be determined to be just as authentic as they are in person as online and how, things appear. It doesn't need to be about an image, rather it needs to be about, the problem that you're solving for and how you're going to care for that need in different ways. Now, Charles, I know we have about 6 minutes left that we haven't had any questions, I don't think, dropped in
I
anywhere.
don't see any in the chat. If
Okay.
anybody has any
So, yeah,
questions, please
please
post
start.
them. Otherwise, I'll just keep talking.
Yeah, definitely. In any kind of way. Again,
So I,
yeah, go
I
ahead.
wanted to ask you a question. So another thing that you mentioned that was very interesting that I was not aware of is the budget expectations aspect of this, right? Like as attorneys, we are very hesitant to post on our webpage how much we charge because we think that that might scare people away, or maybe that's part of the secret sauce, right? Or maybe it's just we don't want to be commoditized like that. Years ago, part of my sales pitch used to be, well, so and so down the street's going to do this. They said they'd do it for $400 less than you. And I would look people right in the eye and I would say, listen, hiring a lawyer to solve you with your emergent problem is not like buying a television. You can Google Sony 65-inch TV serial number XGY913 and you can go buy it the cheapest place you can buy it. It's going to be the same TV from the same factory. Not every lawyer works like that. Not every lawyer has the same ability. And even as far as transactional law goes, where like every lawyer kind of produces the same result, what you want to market is you want to market the experience of hiring a lawyer, right? Do you want a lawyer? Some people want a lawyer that they walk in the door, they give them a piece of paper and $1,000, and then they get the answer 3 days later and the case is over. Most people want their hand held. They want their questions answered. They want that experience of a human answering the phone or a human getting back to them within 24 hours. So, speak to me with budget expectations. Like, what are your thoughts? Do you put how much a bushel of strawberries costs on your website?
Right. And that's definitely does St. Luke's, is it easy to get to their published, cost of things? By
Right. How
law, they
much
have
is
to
it? How
have
much
it.
is an MRI? Nobody
Ooh, but
knows
let me,
until 6 months later when the bill comes.
right. It takes, many inquiries and things like that to get to what they're legally bound to, provide along the way. I think transparency wins the game of honest. When somebody asks directly, it's being able to have it. I think on the website is, something so that it can be picked up for a search to say, we talk openly and honestly about budgets and expectations. We are just here to, come up with that holistic language that addresses it But because you do have to explain it, because if someone like us, business owners and people, we've had lots of lawyers in our lives, we understand the transactional relationship that we have. But if it's somebody for the first time needing something, there may be sticker shock, just like buying a new car versus a used car in life. So I think it's that is more of the holistic language that we can do to get to where we need to get.
That was the exact answer I was looking for. So my website will be updated, not this Thursday, but next Thursday. My
I'll look.
website will be updated with things like, please contact us for an open, honest, and transparent conversation about your budget and what, the results you're seeking may cost.
Because that's same thing with my business, right? I could start spewing out numbers here, but it doesn't help to know unless, all right, are you a law firm with 30 different, lawyers that all need their own positioning within their specialty and what's going on? Or are you a one person show that you do, this all day long and this is your path? Both of those are the same process, but the amount of need that goes into that is going to be different for the effort. So yeah, it all comes back to just individual.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And back to the, your business is no different than mine. That makes a lot of sense, right? Because if you start posting how much your strawberries cost, people are going to say, "Well, I got them cheaper at Sam's Club yesterday." But
Well, we
we all know the
always
Sam's
post.
Club strawberries are not going to be as good as yours.
Well, but here's the thing on that with strawberries. We post and we know we're the most expensive strawberries in Lehigh Valley. Not because we're trying to be the most expensive. That is the rate at what we know that we have the best fields. We have, the least amount of weeds. We've got the best parking. We've got all of this. And because, well, it costs more. And so we now, over time, people continue coming back to us and they don't blink twice because of what you're able to provide. So it all depends upon, the person and what goes on. But I mean, hey, pick your own strawberries. It's the best scam out there. People are paying us to come into our field to do the work. I mean, no, I'm just kidding. There's a lot of different things that go along with that. But we have a kick-ass milkshake. So we need everyone out there beginning of June. But no, this has
Yes.
been so awesome. And I want to be aware of the time and stuff. Nancy, how we wrap this up here and things. Again, everyone, I'll share my screen real quick again with, you have my contact information also as it is in the worksheet with things. Please reach out, connect on LinkedIn as I look to help and support as much as we can here in the Lehigh Valley.
Absolutely. And I think the fact that there were no questions mean that you did a fantastic
I
job.
hope so.
We answered everybody's questions as we
Woo.
rolled through, and perfect presentation.
Or
Awesome.
everybody's sitting here going, "Oh my God."
It's an extra
That
long
could be
lunch break
too.
now.
That was a lot of information.
Yeah.
I can't thank both of you. I mean, what a great interaction between the two of you. It not only answered a lot of questions, it opened up, I think, a lot more as people start really thinking about your worksheet and so on and so forth. While you were talking, Charles, I did go on your website. It is good.
Oh, thank you, Nancy.
I'll check it out next Thursday. But if there's no questions, we'll let everybody get back to work, get back to their lives. And I thank you both very much. It was a great presentation.
All right. Thanks,
Thank you
Nancy.
very much,
Thanks, Deb.
everyone. Have a great
Bye-bye.
day.